Hey guys, and welcome to another Hobby Tips. So today we're going to be looking at using contrast paints to tint armor, specifically black armor on a Space Marine. So let's have a look. So in the previous Hobby Tips videos, I've looked at contrast paints and how to use them, and one of those effective ways is to tint or color hard surface materials. And so a Space Marine is a great one to try this on. And so to continue that talk, we're looking at how to do it on a Space Marine using black. And so I've got my own chapter here which uses black shoulder pads and some black in the helmet and so on, and that's the areas that I'm going to be tinting with this color, and specifically we're going to be tinting it towards a blue. So rather than just having the black highlighted with gray, we're then going to try to push this towards a blue tone. So this contrast green here is actually a blue color, and it's a really great one to use for tinting black towards blue. It's just great, it works really well. And in addition to that, we'll be using the contrast medium to do this technique, and we have our range of grays here from dark to light. So I'm using army painter, but you could use any grays. Just a dark gray, that's Necromancer cloak. We've got some dungeon gray, and we've got some uniform gray here, and then some white. And so the idea behind it is that you want to highlight the area up lighter than you would normally go. Okay, so that's why we have these lighter tones here, and for a Space Marine we're just doing line edge highlighting. But if you were doing let's say a robe or something with bigger volumes, you would still do it. You'd have to probably put a few more layers of color in, but you're looking to go a little bit lighter than you would normally highlight to. So for instance, we're going to be using like this as the base, and then we'd be using the mid-tone, and then this would normally be the highlight, and that's where you'd probably stop with most blacks. You wouldn't go any brighter than that, but for this one we're going to push a little bit of white into that and just do the very tips and very edges, the very raised areas, just a little bit brighter. And that's going to help, because what contrast paints do is they will push back tones towards the middle, so you'll lose a lot of your brights, and they'll shade the darks. So we want something that's a little bit brighter, and that way we'll be able to see the full range and have something that looks really cool. And one of the great things about using contrast paints like this on a black is it enriches that black. It leaves a glossy or low satin kind of finish, and it looks like a lacquered surface, which is really good for Space Marines like this. It's going to leave a really nice finish to it. So if you don't end up varnishing it, you're going to end up with this really nice sort of lacquered surface, which is pretty cool, right? So and it contrasts well with the metal surface we've got. So we've got like a lacquered surface and a metal surface, and those two different shines are very different, and you're going to see that in the end. I'll show you a finished product, but we're going to get into this. I don't want to go on a full tutorial here. We just want to have a go and get it started. So to start with, I'm just going to highlight this up with the gray off camera. I'll come back, and then we're going to get into how to use the contrast paints as a tint or a glaze to get that color, and then you'll see the finished product at the end. So if you've got your model at home, highlight it up with the grays and get it up to like a bright level, and you'll see my tones. I'll show you that in a second, and once you've got it to that point, then we can try doing the tints and the glazes with the contrast and see what happens. And incidentally, this could be applied to any color. If you were wanting to color the black, you could use a red or a green or a yellow or whatever you want really, and it will do the same job. I'm just using blue because blue is like a really obvious one, and one that definitely works with blacks. It's like something that is quite harmonious, but you could really push it to something really interesting, like a red would be really cool, right? Or or a purple even. So and contrast paints have all of those colors, so you just pick the one you like and have a go with this, but you will need the contrast medium. So I'll be back in a second, and we'll get on with it. Alright, so I've highlighted up all the black that is going to be using the contrast on. So you can see how I've gone quite a lot brighter than maybe what you would normally go. So we can see here I've gone from the dark to the mid to the light, but then I've added this extra step of white mixed in to get this slightly brighter tone, so that we have 4 stages of highlights basically over these black areas. So this is like a nice fast way you could do for like an army standard or something like that. Obviously if you were going to be doing this on like your HQ model or your character model, then you would probably put a few more steps in here, but this is more for an army standard, so it works a little bit faster. And you know, that's part of the reason to do this kind of stuff, is to find those nice techniques that can get your stuff done in a shorter time frame. So yeah, once we've got to this point, we want to now add that in. So we're not going to use the contrast straight out of the pot, we're going to use it from here, and we've got some of the contrast medium over this side, and we're going to just basically, like I've shown before in a lot of my tutorials, we just drag it across and we add it in until we get a tinted version. It's very much like an ink wash or a shade, but we're just not wanting to use the whole color there. We want to see some transparency here. So we have like 3 or 4 drops of this, and then we just drag it across until we start to see like a good amount of this color in, but not enough to totally darken it like we've got here. We just want it to be a light glaze layer. And so once we've got that, we're ready to go. And the trick with it is that you just want to do it in as little motions as possible. You just paint it straight on and allow it to tint that surface without playing with it too much, because what's going to happen is you're going to end up basically causing little bumps and furrows in the paint because it's quite thick. You just want to move it around until it's covered correctly and you've got that nice blue tint going on. And you'll notice that it's already starting to dull that down quite a lot, and you can move it about a little bit while it's still wet, but try not to do too much. You basically want to try to do it in a singular motion. That will get you the best results. But it's really simple, and we're just trying to get that color. Now, one of the advantages of doing this is that you don't have to have you know, a really good base coat on there. In fact, you know, it's okay if some of your undertones and the undercoat that you've got actually is you know, showing through like it's a blotchy kind of base coat. That's actually quite good with this, because the contrast is actually going to fix all that quite well. In fact, it's going to deepen the black. It's going to give you a really lacquered finish. It's going to look really cool. You know, it's gonna really work. So I just want to pick up some of that. It's starting to pull too much. You want to get it as even across the surface as possible. So if that happens, like you just saw there, just wipe off the excess and drag your brush across, just like you would do with a wash. This is almost identical to using a wash, but we're just tinting that out. You can already see now how different that's becoming, right? So we're getting this nice slightly blue look, and as that dries, that black is going to deepen, and we're going to get that lacquered finish. So it's a really nice technique to try, and as I said, you could use any of the contrast colors to do this. Like you could have yellow, red, purple, you know, whatever color that you want, green and so on. All of them work. I just like this particular blue. Big fan of blue greens and stuff like that, and this one is particularly cool. And you can always add more if you want to push it even further. You can add another layer if you like, depending on how it looks at the end. We just want to get that nice, as long as you can see the blue basically coming through, that's all that you want, and that should be enough. You're not going to need any more than that, or whatever color that you're wanting to use, right? So you just want to see it in the finished product, and that should give you the result that you're looking for. And so that's pretty much it. We're pretty much there now. Just clean that up a little bit. There we go. Wipe off the excess there. And as I said, you don't want it pooling too heavily in any one spot. You just want a nice even coat there, and you'll end up with something really cool. And that's basically it. And now we've got this nice sort of blue-green. As I said, it will dry a little bit more dull. It's not going to be quite as vibrant as what you're seeing there. It's going to knock back a little bit. And what I'll do at the end of this, I'll show you, there'll be not an overview recipe, but I'll show you a more nicer photo of a finished one, which I've got just over here, just so you can see a bit more closely how it looks when you put it next to other colors. So I'll leave you with a photo of that. But that's pretty much all I want to show you. Something really easy you can try at home, just playing with the contrast medium and the contrast paint to tint colors and give you a nice finish. If you like this, please hit that subscribe button, notify button, all that kind of stuff. Really helps me out. But otherwise, yeah, that's it. I guess I'll see you on the next one.